one. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for apes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. Welcome back to Strange Brew Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tomcat, a.k.a. Tom Thompson, the Reptilian. You can find all my music on all music platforms. And who am I joined by?
Tajana Truthseeker. I'm back again, and it's nice to be back on the podcast. I always love it because, like, we talk about such random things. You know what I mean?
It's a lot of fun, right? And you're one of my favorite guests, and we have a good banter and stuff. So I'm really excited for this. We've covered an array of different subjects since you've been on, but the world is kind of crazy right now. If anyone hasn't noticed.
It's a complete shitstorm, like a complete dumpster fire, and I'm just kind of coasting it through like everybody else.
I know it's crazy.
You get in my face with that, I'll beat your goddamn ass, you son of a bitch.
Dude, that was epic.
It is nuts. Obviously, like there's scary things going on in the UK, in my opinion, and I feel for them. One of my coasts is in Ireland, and it doesn't seem any better there. It definitely seems like they're using people as a weapon in a lot of cases, and it's and what we have a lot of things to get to, but how has your journey been? Because you've been traveling around the States, have you not?
Yeah, and we're still in Texas, and I'm not doing well in the heat. Like, I love Texas. I love Texans. Honestly, everyone's super friendly, super outgoing, very honest with how they feel. Same like mind politically wise. However, the heat, as a Northern Canadian coming to Texas in the summer was probably not a good idea. I probably should have like gotten here in the fall.
It's crazy hot today here too. It's like 27 or something like that, 28.
Oh, really? It actually cooled down here to 35 degrees Celsius. It was 43 for 3 weeks.
Wow, that is hot.
It was insane. Like, I went outside and I'm like sweating, and then I go to the store and people are wearing like jeans and long sleeve shirts, not a tiny drop of sweat in sight, and I look like I ran the marathon in the Sahara Desert.
So weird. Well, then you have, if they come to Canada during the winter, they're like, they don't know how to react. Or when that snowed that one time in Texas and they're all freaking out.
Oh, yeah. I actually had a bunch of Canadians who were working down here, and they're like, yeah, dude, it was like maybe a spring storm. And they shut down all the highways, and a couple of the guys that work down here that are from Northern Canada got pulled over by the cops. And they're like, you need to get off the highway. And they're like, why? And they're like, because it's snowing. And they're like, oh, this is snow.
That's funny. Did you hear about like that crazy hail? I think it was in Alberta. And it was like breaking glass and shit.
Yeah, I saw the videos. It was I think that was almost 2 weeks ago or a week ago now. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, and then there's people that are claiming like this kid got into an accident that I work with, and come to find out it was this Indian kid that was 16, just got his license, was only at his G1, shouldn't have been on the road, and then hit this dude I work with. And of course, just something that happens every day now with the mass amount of people that we're letting in the country. And then he said that someone with his insurance, they couldn't like process it because they were dealing with the stuff in Alberta. And I was like, how does that make sense in Ontario? How they backed up that much?
That's insane. I've never heard of, because Alberta insurances are completely separate from Ontario insurances. Like, we're private.
That's what I don't understand. Like, maybe it was just the insurance company making up shit to.
100%, just to like not give them anything back, right? Because like Alberta insurance is completely separate. We're completely privatized. I don't know how that works in Ontario though. Are you guys privatized or no?
I don't know. I hate Ontario. I hate like Canada in general is pretty terrible. And it's something that is funny that like you were talking about in a video, and I've talked about many times, is this idea of that both political parties are the exact same. I think it's a uniparty. I think they all represent the same master. And it's very funny that like people were all like, yay for Danielle Smith, and then she's doing the exact same things the liberals are doing by like saying, oh, we're going to have a police force and it's all going to be migrants essentially, and stuff like that, where she's catering to the migrants. She's putting a towel on her head like every other politician. I want to know your thoughts about that.
Honestly, I had hope for Danielle Smith, but when she started to pretty much peddle the whole agenda, the like New World Order agenda, I realized she was sold out. Especially when she said that she wants 10 million people in Alberta by the end of, I don't know what she said, 2030 or something. I was like, where are you, like, how? You know what I mean? Like, you're basically burning down half of Alberta every single summer. And now you're going to bring in 10 million people. Like, where are you going to put these people? We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have anything, you know. And she's like, oh, well, that's what's going to build our economy. No, if we keep on building the oil patch, that's what's going to build our economy. How is bringing in people with no skills, especially in oil and gas, bring them into an oil and gas, you know, province? Like, I don't get it.
It's a way of collapsing, like the Century Initiative. They want to bring in 100 million people into Canada by 2050. That will collapse the country. And we already have the infrastructure for the people that already exist here. And now, like, there's been food banks running out of food. These programs that were put into place and our ancestors put into place for us, for the Canadian citizens, are being used by migrants. Indians are just laughing about there's free food. Oh, if you go over here, there's free. They're doing videos claiming that there's free food when it's for the people that are actually struggling in the Canadian citizens. Come to find out, especially around places like Toronto, 95% of the people using food banks are not from that. We're not born in this country.
Oh, yeah. No, I definitely can see why they're doing this. And they're doing the same thing all over, like, everywhere, right? Like, even in the UK, Europe. What they're trying to do is they're trying to collapse the West, but the government doesn't want to admit that it's doing it to its own people. So what they're going to do is they're going to flood it with people with absolutely no, I don't know, how should I say this? Completely different cultures. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, completely different values. And then what they will do is they will prioritize those people over the own Canadian people so that they can collapse the entire system. And then pretty much it's the whole reset and putting things over. Sorry, those are my dogs. We adopted a puppy. He was left at a gas station. Yeah, while we were pumping gas, somebody just took a puppy, put it in back of someone's pickup truck and left him there. And it was like 43 degrees out. So we took him in, and now my dogs think that it's their puppy. So
that's hilarious. You're gonna have to keep it now.
Oh yeah, it's been with us for 3 weeks. So now they're just like over there, like grooming him and playing with him. And I'm just like, okay, I guess we're keeping a puppy. So yeah,
everything else for a reason. But it is crazy, right? Like the biggest lie we've ever been told is diversity is our strength. It's our weakness. How in the world does our differences make us stronger? If you have different factions of people, different religions, like, it can work if people assimilate in somewhat, but realistically, if you flood in the country with too many people too fast, you have different religions, different cultures, different ethnicities, different languages, trying to put them in this melting pot of hell. And then meanwhile, everyone is fighting each other because of their differences. That's why there's always been Christian nations and Muslim nations since like the dawn of religion, which is obviously a creation, in my opinion, by the reptilians, maybe. but you know, and then they do that type of stuff where they're like, it's crazy because there's no, that doesn't make sense. Our differences actually make division. And you can clearly see this. You have Sikh Indians fighting with Hindus, and they're like in the streets with swords. And it's crazy. It's mind blowing to me that people don't recognize this.
Immigration needs to be capped every single year, right? Because you bring in a certain amount of people, they eventually assimilate. You know what I mean? And then you bring in another, so that the immigrants prior to them who have already sort of assimilated can help them assimilate. And that's usually how the flow of immigration has flowed throughout, the Western time, since Western civilization has been a thing. But what they're doing right now is they're just taking mass immigration, flooding it in. The infrastructure can't handle it. The tax money can't handle it. And so now you're getting even more hate based on all of these cultural differences that we wouldn't have had before if immigration was mitigated very slowly.
And they're not bringing in people of high quality, in my opinion.
No, so exactly. So like when my parents immigrated here, you had to go through a test. You had to pass like a certain amount of points. Like, would you actually be, considered for Canada as a Canadian citizen? Could you actually eventually assimilate? And you needed certain points. You needed to have university degrees. You needed this, you needed that, you needed this. Now it's just like there's people who have been let go out of prisons in other countries that are being led into the Western world and being told by their countries that if they come back, that they will be unalived or killed if they come back to their own country. So we're just pretty much letting in like prisoners with like normal, regular refugees, and you can't tell the difference with who is who because they don't have any sort of regulation points left.
The door is wide open. And
exactly.
Then our tax dollars are paying for them to be housed at like hotels and stuff. That's happening all over in Ottawa and Toronto. And it's absurd. And people don't notice how bad this is getting. In Brampton, in Ontario, is a prime example of a culture just coming in, not adapting and not assimilating to any of the culture that's already here and just taking over an entire city. It's happened in Alberta, in Edmonton and stuff like that. In what's that place, Syria or whatever? Like it's happening all over. And then it's funny how like if white people band together, it's white supremacy, but every other culture can band together. Indians can band together, Muslims can band together, and that's fine. But if white people did it collectively to try to fight against kind of what is happening, the erosion of, in my opinion, white culture, I've seen it all over Europe. I've seen it in my buddy in Ireland. It's crazy. And I think people are starting to notice that as a weaponization, but now they're throwing like kids in prison in the UK for waving flags. It's crazy, some of the stuff that's going on.
Oh, yeah, because even if you talk to people who were born in Canada who are Sikh or Hindu or anything, they're even saying the same thing. They're like, dude, like the people that are coming in right now are making us look bad because they assimilated and they got away from what they got away from in the 80s and the 90s from India to make a better life here in Canada. And now they're saying that they're being lumped into the same group as the ones who are coming here, not wanting to assimilate, create problems, create crimes. And so it's almost like even the long-term immigrants or people who were born here, who are Sikh, who are Hindu, are saying the exact same thing that we're saying. And no one's really listening. So I think
I work with a Hindu kid, and he's said that. He's like, he's like, they're like essentially making out. And I tell him about all my theories and stuff. It's hilarious about my Zionist stuff. And it's hilarious because he's not conspiracy minded at all. Just came here to work in essentially manufacturing and become a machinist, and he's a good person, and he wants to adapt to the culture. And I always joke that he's got a white kid inside of him because he like the way he acts is very, like he's getting like accustomed to this culture, and he doesn't like a lot of the stuff that's going on. I tell him about like, man, Sikhs are fighting Hindus. He thinks like the Khalistani movement is like the Muslims infiltrating through Pakistan and using it to create like chaos, and they have their own weird theories, but it's definitely a problem. And it's definitely something that I think people should be talking about more. And I think that everyone needs to look towards the UK and Europe to see how this is going to unfold over here if we're not careful.
Oh, yeah, I think it's already unfolding at the same time because Sweden was the first kind of target in Europe for this, except they've kept all of the news sources out of the news of what's happening in Sweden and how long they've been dealing with this issue now. So, and what I find hilarious is you immediately get labeled a racist, even though it's not a white versus this issue. It's literally the assimilation to Canadian culture. You know what I mean?
You know what's crazy though? There's the idea of I think there's a book called, I think it's Color Me Racist. I think that's the book. I can't remember right now. But essentially it's like a Marxist ideology to use color. Caucasian, the word Caucasian was developed by, I'm pretty sure, a Jewish guy in the 1700s. And it's essentially just using these terms to put people into certain groups and then divide and conquer, right? And you see this with the mayor deputy of Toronto, a Muslim lady that literally, and the mayor Chow, Margaret Chow, she's fucking batshit crazy. She wants to have undocumented day for all the undocumented immigrants that are here. And then her mayor deputy said that they want to essentially give permanent residency to all the people that are undocumented, which are in the thousands. There's supposed to be like 500,000 people that are not, they don't know where they are in Canada. 500,000 people.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That is insane, dude. Honestly, I swear all of our politicians have lost their marbles, but like they're going for the NWO agenda, right? Yes. Just to piss off like the regular Canadians, people who are paying their taxes, who are lawful and all of that. They're doing it across the entire world, and they're basically mocking its own citizens who are paying for their... Yeah, exactly. Like we're paying their salary and they're just going in and like just saying the dumbest shit ever. It's like,
and that's why I think it's so funny. There's people are like, oh, they're just bringing these people for votes. It's nothing to do with votes. I truly believe that. I think they all serve the same master. I think behind closed door, Pierre like sucks on Trudeau's left nut. Like I think that all this stuff is true, and that they're all shaking hands, having good times, going to some weird orgy on some island, you know. And I truly believe that they're selected, not elected. Right?
Oh, and, dude, 100%. The elections are like so predetermined well ahead of time that it's not even funny. So I was about to have a smoke because the minute we started talking about politics, I was like, so I'm just gonna have a smoke on the thing. If anyone's like, oh, it's so unhealthy, whatever, dude.
It's fine. I used to smoke for years, and work has been annoying. So I was like out in the forklift, and this other dude, I was like, "You smoke, right?" He was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "It's one of those days. Can you pass me one?"
Yeah. Literally, it's the only thing keeping me sane. I'll be honest with you, because like I don't drink alcohol that much. Like I'll have a glass of wine here and there or whatever, but like I swear, dude, I can't with like anything that is going on anymore. And I'm trying to keep positive, and I kind of do with like my sense of humor. But at the end of the day, like unless a millionaire and billionaires don't wake up and realize that like after they're done chopping us up, like regular us, you know, like plebs, that they're gonna be next. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that are like very hopeful and stuff, and I truly believe that it's going to get really bad before it gets better.
Oh yeah,
it's going to have like there's going to be a stranglehold, and now there's like what is that? Like it was like secret documents reveal that the WEF says that 5 billion people are going to die in 2025. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did. I've heard so much stuff, especially about the WEF, because they kind of go with the whole Georgia Guidestone thing. You know what I mean? And the whole Depop plan. And I'm just trying to figure out if they're going to let another virus out, or if it's the jabs that are going to create this. So,
well, speaking of which, let's talk about this darling, as you call it. But this is this supposedly WF warns of error of shock events is coming. And according to this article, it says the World Economic Forum has declared that anything can happen in our post-pandemic era, and is warning that the world must brace for an era of shock events. Oh, the things that you're planning. According to Professor Maha Hussein Aziz of New York University, the coming decade will be shaped by heightened global risk and unpredicted shock events. It's a big dog.
I know. Sorry.
It's all good. In a new opinion piece posted on the World Economic Forum website, Aziz claims anything can happen in the post-pandemic era, and went on to list 3 potential shock events that could happen soon. InfoWars obviously reported this, the first emergence of a new global extremist group that they develop most times, ISIS, Taliban, everything was constructed with the help of Mossad and intelligence agencies, which the professor claims could be used, you could use AI to create a new kind of terrorism. With the world distracted with multiple major wars and leadership in decline, this could be an opportunity for a new extremist group to make its mark and maybe not face as many consequences. Perhaps they'll even leverage AI tools to kick off a new phase of terrorism. So that's fun. Cyber, just claiming that there could be a shock event is a cyber pandemic. The outage cost Fortune 500 companies $4.4 billion alone. So they're claiming that they could use AI to essentially collapse a lot of the infrastructure.
Oh, and I think they've already been testing that out, especially with like the hacking that has been going on, you know what I mean, in major corporations and such. So, and you know how it goes. They're the ones that create the problem, and then they give us the solutions, and they warn us about these problems as if they're like, just out there foreseeing all of these problems, prophesizing them. Meanwhile, they're the ones creating it and planning it.
Problem, reaction, solution, right? Like, it's crazy. And that's why I'm like, it's so interesting to me that I'm like, I've always been super into like the alien stuff and the reptilians and some of these demonic creatures that I think exist behind our our existence. Some of the chat was like, don't feel bad about smoking cigs. That nicotine may be saving you from various ailments. Dr. Brian Ardis was on Stu Peters making some very interesting claims about nicotine.
I've read all of those things, and they're so true because ever since I started smoking, I have not been sick once. I haven't had the flu once. I haven't been sick. I've also noticed that what's that thing? Hypnosis doesn't work on you when you're because I tried this hypnosis tape on how to quit smoking, and it worked on everybody else. And like, they're like, oh yeah, you just quit smoking, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know about that. So then I tried it and I was like, yeah, nothing. So I don't know if it's just my personality or whatever, but honestly,
I think it's your consciousness probably, and like the way, obviously you're too aware of things.
I think so. Maybe, yeah, maybe that. But like, I haven't been sick, and everyone's like, oh, your teeth will go yellow. My teeth haven't gone yellow. Like, I haven't really noticed anything. And my allergies went away.
Weird. And they right, they can claim what's inside of the rest of it, like nicotine. I remember when vaping first came out, and I did like all this crazy research to figure out if it would help me quit smoking, but then who knows what chemicals they're putting in it, the same as like obviously the cigarettes, but like the nicotine pouches, if they're not dyed and they don't have all this other stuff in them, it can help with like Alzheimer's and memory loss. I'm a fan of Stu Peters. I think sometimes he sways one way or the other a little bit, where first he's against Trump, then he's like, oh, Trump got assassinated, then he's for Trump, and then now there's like Jewish rabbis claiming that like in their non-Jewish Messiah has to get pierced through the right lobe. It's a ritual. I have a video on that stuff for when we go in the protocol elders.
Really?
It's weird. This rabbi's talking about it for like 5 minutes, all about how like it's a ritual and all that stuff. At some point, probably going to be one of our most controversial episodes. I want to do the Protocol Elders of Zion, one of the most in-depth conspiracies, or at least controversials, because it's labeled anti-Semitic, right? But it's fascinating because it's like a play-by-play book of what this stuff is happening now and has happened in the past.
I actually have gone down that rabbit hole, and the only thing I know whore, I just don't know what, like rabbit whore. No, I went down that rabbit hole, and the one thing that you gotta look at how they found that script. Yeah, and then look at how the CIA also planted scripts in World War II. And then ask yourself, what is the purpose of that script coming out for being used in the future, and whether it's actually like real, because there's always some like truth to every conspiracy, but there's also a goal in the background. That's what I always tell people. I'm like, if they're telling us something, right, and they're pointing to a certain enemy, that means there's still a shadow person behind that, and probably 2 more shadows behind that. And that's the one reason why I don't go into like the whole thing. And people always are like, oh, are you like, this? Are you Jewish? Are you this? And I'm like, no, I just know that there's different levels of shadows behind each one of those things. That's all I gotta say, is because I've gone down that rabbit hole like pretty deep, but I also have studied like the CIA, the KGB, and how like the Nazis and all of the propaganda was pushed in World War II, and it's exactly play by play that the CIA used on the Germans in World War II.
Yeah, because we kind of discussed this a little bit, but there is, I'm fascinated by the history that we've been lied to. And it is fine. Now there's a lot of people claiming that the guy with the little mustache was like somehow the good guy. And it's funny because after all these people are selected, you claim, right? All these conspiracy theorists claim that everybody is selected and they're put there for a reason. But that's the one guy that's not. Like in Devil's Advocate, right? He did supposedly kicked out the Rothschild banking system. Maybe
he was a Rothschild.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He was the bastard son of or child, I think of Mayor Rothschild, grandchild or whatever. I was gonna dive in that on Patreon, and the thing is, right, like he was being paid. There's all these documents that state this, that they were gonna put him in Madagascar, and that was the final solution. And so it is interesting that you see people wanting to have some sort of savior outlook. Like if he took Germany out of essentially the depression that they were going through and built up their economy in a way he's never seen, I guess good for him. But I think that they got hijacked. There's people, I have this I think her name's Elizabeth Hay. This woman coming on, and she supposedly channels like aliens. It's fascinating. She's quite well known for this in October. And I've seen a video of her talking where she said originally that it was a movement where they were trying to fight against the globalists, and then it got hijacked by reptilians.
Really?
It's why I'm gonna ask her about it. But like,
interesting. I kind of want to hear that. I kind of want to hear what she has to say about that, because I've never heard that kind of sentiment before.
I know, and she claims to be in contact with the Galactic Federation and stuff. Like, it's pretty wild. So we'll see.
Crazy.
See how that goes. So it is crazy, and I think that we've been lied to on such a grand scale about a lot of the stuff, and that's why I'm interested about the Zionist stuff, because you can clearly hear the rabbis talk that way about what their plans are and stuff like that, and they want their second Messiah, or their Messiah to come, because Jesus wasn't their Messiah, and there's a lot of weird stuff. Them trying to kill the red heifer and find the perfect cow, supposedly. And of course, I'm someone that believe in whatever, nothing that you hear, nothing that you see and half of what you hear, or vice versa, whatever. Right? I just question everything, right?
That's true. That's very true. No, honestly, I question absolutely everything, because if you look at some of like the actual history, so like Lord of the Rings, which is super weird. If you say like Lord of the Rings, people are like, oh, it's just fantasy, but that's how they actually tell us the truth through things. And there's always the one who like wears the ring, right? So the one that rules them all. And so everything else is just a division tactic, and it's like a pyramid scheme almost. You know what I mean? And it trickles down to just dividing us based on race, religion, skin color, gender, ideologies, like you name it. They will use absolutely everything to divide us. So that's the one pattern that I have noticed with like the globalist parasite. You call them reptilians. Honestly, they can't be human, right? No. Like, there's no way. Like, in my head, I'm like, there's no way these are humans, because if they were, they would realize that we're all in the same boat, right? And we would all want the exact same everything.
They're a parasitic entity from beyond this physical realm. I believe that. And we just we dived into the Anunnaki. I want to get in the Nephilim. I'll talk about anything that I find interesting. And that's why going down that kind of Zionist protocol, Elders of Zion, like whole, I want to talk about, just for the sake of talking about it, to understand more. And I'm reading this book right now called Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. And it's written by a Jewish guy that doesn't like the Zionist stuff, that has analyzed some of the wars and what has happened and how they're used. A lot of the Jewish people are used as scapegoats and stuff like that for certain agendas. But the people that are really controlling it are these people that are like part of the Sabbatean Francis cult, and like just back to 1666 with redemption through sin. But there is a lot of weird writings in the Talmud.
Yes. Okay. So that actually is the closest to the truth, because they will use, as I said, they will use absolutely any sort of platform to divide and conquer us. And people like latch onto it so fast, and then they spread it, that if I were to make videos about to even remotely get to like the middle ground of truth, every single side would absolutely annihilate me, because they would say like, oh, you're taking this side, and I'm like, no, dudes, I'm not taking any side. I'm just trying to tell you the absolute truth. Because some of the conservatives came unhinged, like when I made the video saying that everyone's on the exact same side. Dude, the level of unhingement that came out of that video was like insane. People are like, oh, so you want Justin Trudeau in again? And I'm like, are you nuts? Like, for 2 years, I've been making videos about how much I hate the guy because he's an idiot. And all of a sudden now you guys think that I'm going to actually, like, go for him? Like, what?
They're crazy. I've done that numerous times where I've had videos go viral calling out Pierre, and then I've had to explain why I'm saying it. And it's just like, and I said this to my co-host. It's funny because like, he's done the show with me forever, saw me go down so many different rabbit holes, and he like jokes about how like when I was talking about some of the Jewish stuff, he's like, hey, if he's like, we have a buddy on My buddy Jules, he just started doing podcasting with this Gray Pilled podcast, he calls it. And he was like, essentially, like, we're getting into all this stuff. And he's like, how long have you listened to the show, Jules? And it's like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. And my buddy Billy's like, okay, Tom goes through these phases where he becomes obsessed with something for like 4 to 6 months. And that's all you're going to hear about. And he's like, right now we're in the Jew phase.
Oh my gosh. See, that's
Pretty
like
much.
the ADHD thing. Yeah.
OCD of like trying to analyze, because like I've dug into a lot of the spiritual aspect of things and aliens, but the physical aspect of who's really controlling things, where's the money going, why is there so much connection to dual citizenship to Israel, and like the World Economic Forum, and then you have Pfizer is like dominantly the Jays. There's weird things about that, and I've read through some of the stuff in the Talmud, and it disgusts me. And I'm not religious, but I do not like I don't like religion in general. I think it was created to divide and conquer us. Like people claim the Jesuits created Islam, and the Jesuits are connected back again to like Zionists. That's why the Pope wears a little hat. Everyone seems to not notice this, that they're all wearing like the yarmulke essentially.
So the Talmud, the true Talmud, is only written in Hebrew, and then every translation, you have to be very careful which translation that you read. So yeah, honestly, because I've gone through it as well, and so like the truest form is actually written in Hebrew, and you have to look at the source of where the Talmud is actually written in, and then there's also different books that tell stories, and then the Talmud is a reference to those stories, and you have to study both at the same time.
Why do they talk about the kids stuff so often? Like you can like have sex with a baby under 3, like shit like that is fucked up.
See, that's the one thing that I have never seen in the Talmud that I read.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm trying to figure out if there is another version that somebody I guess translated in a different way, because I've been trying to find it on actual like
actually be able to read it.
Yeah, to actually physically read it. I know online there's a bunch of like, stuff, and I mean they say the same thing for like Christianity and even for the Quran, and I never even read that in the Quran of what they're saying online. You know
like
what
Ahmed had the bride, it's what's her name, and she was 6, and then they consummate at 9 or whatever.
Yeah, so I never read that in the Quran that I read. So I'm trying to figure out if there is, because like there's so much propaganda even about the Christian religion, you know what I mean, of how people like translate it, and then like it goes viral, right? And then people just kind of take it the way they do take it. So that's where I'm like trying to figure out if it is actually physically written in a Talmud in a certain aspect of things, because there was 2 different sects of there was Zoroasterism, and then they freed a king that went on and created what is today known as Satanism. And then the Jewish people said that is not what we stand for, and they created a different Orthodox Jewish sect. From there came like, I shouldn't say Catholic, but like the modern like Jewish sect, which is in the Hasidic.
The original. Essentially, what it's because Satanism is to me like that's just Anton LaVey and his bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's nothing like that. It's even like worse, where even the rabbi said, "Hey, when what this guy's talking about is not." Oh, okay, yeah, you have the book, so you have to go all the way back, because like Zoroasterism is like the first religion with the one god. There was one more religion before that, but Zoroasterism was kind of like the most popular, and you have to be born into it. Before then, it was all multi-gods. So with Hinduism is, I think, the oldest religion. Then you have all the Egyptian like theology and teachings in that sense of the way. But if you look at Hinduism, it's almost like everybody took bits and pieces of the Vedas and then focused in on that and made a religion, including Buddhism. And then what happened before Hinduism is also extremely interesting, because that's when you have like the ancient cultures and things like that. So like I could go on for like
they're saying the Bible, according to people like Billy Carson, and I like him, he seems to know his stuff.
He does,
he claims that even in the Christian Bible, you don't need to hold it so close. You're good. It's okay. It's not fine. But he claims that it was translated wrong, and that's gods. That's not even in the Bible, that he's read through all the ancient texts and he said it's God's and that's the one thing that they've definitely mistranslated. And so, and then it goes back to the Anunnaki and all that stuff of worship of these ancient gods. And there's people that believe like that these people under the cover of Judaism are actually like the Babylonian magic worshipers, fallen angels, some people claim, all that stuff. And there is a weird thing, right? Because it doesn't make sense to me that people that look so white that's the Khazarian theory, because there's supposed to be like different versions of all of this stuff and there's different sections, but like, how can you be that white and from like one of the hottest places in the desert?
See, if you look at like the I guess ancient, because if you look at actual like Lebanese and Arab people, they are dark haired but like very light skinned, like Egyptians as well. Egyptians are actually fairly light skinned, like not pasty like you and I, you know what I mean, like, but they have darker hair, darker complexions, but they're not.
How do you explain like the Jews are like very pale and like have literally different features than like any other like white ethnicity?
Well, if you look at kind of like how Israel began, a lot of the Israelis came from Europe, from many years of being in Europe, right?
That's why I don't really believe that I don't believe that they're the actual Israelites from the Bible. I don't believe. It seems too far fetched for me.
Oh, okay. If you want to look at how they moved in that sense of the way, look up what was that? There's a thing about it, documentary, where they were pushed out as well and then headed north into like Russia and so forth. And
and how do you explain how they've been kicked out of 109 countries in like thousands of different places?
No, Jews weren't. Jews weren't. Those were the Khazarians.
So they infiltrated the way that people think that they
and
did.
Khazarians aren't actually Jewish at all.
I knew that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was kind of plugging you for this stuff, kind of like picking at you, because I want to know what you think about this stuff, because I believe that there is like the actual Israelites. And then I think that according to the stuff we did like a very long episode, 2 parts in the Khazarian Mafia, and it did well because people are obviously interested in this stuff. And it's that they infiltrated this religion because they had to choose. And meanwhile, the real Israelites, some people claim they were black. There's a lot of like different theories on this stuff. So I'm like fascinated by it.
I don't think they were real Israelites were ever black. They were northern, like African, which is Egyptian and in that area, and like Assyrian, which is Iran today. But they're Arab, of like Arab complexion.
That's what I would think. There's all these theories, right? Like of what people think they were. And it's crazy too, because there's theories, everyone's like, this is indigenous land, right? But there's like the story of the Wagas and stuff, or it's like a ancient white race of person that the indigenous encountered. So it's weird shit, man. Blue eyes, red hair, like a Nephilim.
Here, honestly, you want to know what I think? I think that there were certain alien races that made us, all of us, like based on their complexion. Because it says that we were. Oh, really? Okay, because we were made in their image. Their
branding. So every different color, and like why Asians have like slitty eyes or whatever, right? Yeah, it's like because people can't explain that. They're saying like, oh, the sun rose to the east. They think it's because it was branding of our slave owners or the people that created us.
Exactly, because if you look at the Bible and you look at any teachings, we were made in their plural, their image, right? And so we all have exactly the same features in the same locations around the world. Correct?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So people are saying, oh, in the north, the reason why people are blonde and pasty is because you don't have the sun. You know what I mean? But that doesn't really make sense. If you look at the way the DNA actually mutates, you would need way longer for us to mutate in so many different variations without any variations being in the middle. Do you know what I mean?
That's what scares me about the idea that the Anunnaki created us or the Nephilim, because the people say it's the same thing or whatever, right? Is that we were essentially created and then it was going against the one true God by us being created to mine gold for the Anunnaki, if Zecharia Sitchin's theories are correct, and to put particles in their atmosphere of their planet. But it's also kind of scary because then it's like if we're essentially a bastard child of these beings, right? And then God is like, man, they're not even supposed to be here. nice to be here today. You know what I mean? Stupid Clerks movie. But you know what I mean? So like, it is a weird thing. Then are we a smite against God?
Honestly, I have no idea. That far, I don't know, but I do find it really interesting that there are so many different races, but no races are in between until we started to travel and mix with one another. Do you know what I mean?
But people think that's a communist thing too. Multiculturalism was created by a communist agenda, supposedly to like blend everyone together so they can have domination over the goyim.
No, see, that's okay. See, okay, here, okay, this, okay, I'm going to say this in how I understand it.
Yeah, yeah.
Every single one of us, every single culture, every single race, every single religion holds a puzzle piece to the bigger picture. The reason why they don't want us talking, getting along, or knowing each other, or even studying each other's like anything, spirituality or religion or anything, is so that we cannot put the puzzle pieces together and actually see the bigger picture. Exactly, because I find it really weird that during Babylon, right, when apparently we all spoke the same language and we were all very like connected and we all lived on at one, spoke the same language, that God got mad, smited everybody, sent them all over the world, changed the languages so that we couldn't understand each other. Why would
I've heard that too. That's a while since I've heard that.
Yeah, and so why would unification be against God's will? That's the one thing that I kind of where I start to question certain things that are written in this new Bible until you start reading like anything before King James and all of the Bibles that like are banned by the Vatican or the Catholic Church. So that's the one thing that I find really interesting is why would God hate us for actually talking and coming together? That means whoever separated us into religion so that we can't understand each other and images, this could also be a mythical like theory on that they made us in all of different of their images. So that means there's multiple of them. That means the truth lies in one consciousness. And the only way to get that is to study every single religion, every single culture to see where the connecting dots are. And of course, they're going to put in so many lies, so much propaganda to keep us actually separate, which is why I'm like very careful, even on my pages. I'm like, hey, you know what I mean? Like this and this and this. And then people are like, oh, you don't take sides. Oh, you don't this. I'm like, because that is the whole thing. Divide and conquer, divide and conquer. Blame one group over the next, blame one, even though that group doesn't have anything. They're just being used so that we hate each other. You know what I mean?
And I find it hard sometimes to be like, because I see the attack on white people. It was very clear. I see like normal people. My cousin in Toronto.
Oh yeah,
see it like he's like, and he was all about like, you know, he believed in some of my conspiracy stuff, but like I'm seeing like people that I never thought would start to like notice all this stuff are noticing it all the time now. And then that's more divide and conquer. But then there is my people, Canadians, no matter what color you are or whatever, where you like that if you've been here for generations, like a lot of us have in our families, it's like they're definitely being attacked. And in Europe, like they're like it's that's why I'm like it's hard not to get angry at what they're doing, because then these people have been brainwashed to be like, you're a colonizer, you're this, you're that, you're the root of all my problems, and then yet there's only 7% of white people in the entire world.
Okay, so take that exact same kind of thinking and just think throughout the years or even decades how they have vilified Jewish people, right? Because you and I are like, hey, you know what's going on? Like I'm not this, but it's that propaganda that they're doing and that they're making, so that other people can latch onto that, so that you and I react to that. Do you know what I mean?
But how do you explain like the writings and then a lot of quote unquote the Jewish people, whatever, Zionists that say this out in the open, that they want multiculturalism essentially to destroy the Europe nations, to make it fall? Like there is writings and there is a lot of people.
Dude, like, paid agents. Like I'm telling you, these guys will go out in detail to make this. That's why I'm like the elders of Zion, just look at how they found these documents and then study how the CIA used these exact same steps in World War II to trick the Germans.
But do you not think that Mossad is in cahoots with the CIA?
Dude, they're all one. All of them. No, not just the Mossad and the CIA, all of them. Like France and Italy is the #1 surveillance state with their 3-letter agencies, and no one even knows.
London, England.
Nope, they're just finance.
Yeah. It is,
No,
and that's why
Italy.
I want to question things. I love having like people like you on and stuff because I want to know, because there's obviously a lot of people pushing, maybe not against Jewish people, but the Zionist aspect of this conversation, because I don't think they're the same in retrospect of people like, and I read this book called 1666. Some people like this guy. He does shows on YouTube. He tries to stay objective. Very small book, easy to get through. And it was essentially that a lot of this comes from the thought process of the Frankist cult by Jacob Frank, who used this to control people and stuff like that, and to get redemption through sin. There is writings that say that the fires of hell will cleanse their souls and stuff.
Dude, yes, that book will lead you to more truth than any of the other propaganda that's out there. Like I'm honestly telling you, because I got called a colonizer like 2 days ago, and I'm from freaking Bosnia. We haven't colonized shit. We just get drunk and fight each other. We've been colonized by the Turks.
Technically,
what?
Didn't you guys have a genocide?
Oh yeah, like yeah, with NATO genociding Serbia, and then Serbia genocided Bosnia. That's what I mean. We don't literally colonize anyone. We just fight each other, and we're the exact same people. We speak the same language. We look the same. Like our names are almost similar. We've been colonized by Turkey, then we were colonized by Austria and Hungary. You know what I mean? And people are like, "Oh, you're a white colonizer." I'm like, "No, we're just messed up. We just get
well, and that's what it's like.
Other.
The Arabic nations have done that for a long time, and people are like, I think it's all comes from like Britain and Spain and all this stuff. And it's like, that's not true. All land on earth has been conquered. And most people, like, I find that nobody has educated themselves. First of all, I was going to say there's a white rapper named Genocide. You would like him. He talks a lot about the Palestine stuff, but he's Bosnian and he reps it in songs. He's a very he talks about a lot of the propaganda stuff. He's very intelligent. I should shout out to him, see if he can come on the show. But I just discovered him like this year.
I've never even heard of him. I gotta go look him up.
Genocide. He's great, and he covers a lot of stuff and is very pro like free Palestine, that's what, and like you got that whole thing where everyone's divided, like fighting in the streets in Toronto and Ottawa, and there's this happening and there's this happening and there's like so much crazy shit is going on. There's Indians fighting each other, and then Palestine versus Israel fighting each other. It's just like this is the biggest division that I've seen in my entire life being alive, or that I've read about.
Oh yeah, honestly, like they're getting exactly what they want, which is that whole divide and conquer. No matter on what level, on what anything, they just want us all divided, all so that they can conquer, so that we can't stand next to each other and then kind of go against them. That's their entire plan, and has been since like day one. Which is why I don't touch on certain subjects, right? Like let's say the LGBTQ movement has been taken over now, and it all started with that one cake and the wedding thing. Because in the beginning, like lesbians and gays literally just wanted to live their lives, and then they reached that point because almost like the entire world, except for like certain countries, accepted like, oh, okay, you're gay, you're lesbian, no one really cares. Like you go live your life, you're not really impeding on mine, I'm not impeding on yours, kind of thing. And then what happens is these globalists come in and take these groups and then take them further. Same thing with feminism, same thing with like the whole Black Lives Movement thing, right? Because in the beginning, like Black people really were fighting for equal rights and their freedoms, right? And so and that was a legit movement. And then what happens is
it's
something
hijacked.
Exactly. So everything gets hijacked, so that it makes it evil. And the minute you see it being blasted on mainstream news media, that's when I go, I'm out. Because in about 6 to 8 months, the entire script will flip, and it will flip on them. And you're even seeing that now on social media with the whole Palestine thing. Prior to a month ago, you weren't allowed to say anything against them, right? And all of a sudden now it's a flip. Why? Because that's what they want. They want that flip, because then they will achieve their goals. And they're just using people like who fight against each other for that.
Well, what do you think about the idea of what supposedly Albert Pike wrote? Some people think that it wasn't true. Some people think it was true, of that they need essentially the Arabic nations and Israel to destroy each other. They need the Muslims and the Jews to destroy each other to get essentially to invoke this God, which I think that the Zionists or some of these people believe in the Babylonian gods, Marduk maybe, and stuff like that, to do with the Anunnaki, and they're trying to invoke these gods and bring back the old gods.
See, that part, I don't know, but it's to invoke a prophecy that has been written in almost every single book. including all of the Freemason books. And if you look at who the actual thing is behind everything, look at the Vatican and compare it to all of the Egyptian gods, because the Egyptian gods, Egypt is the epicenter of everything that we're seeing today.
Yeah,
Egypt never went away. Egypt tried to wake up through the Roman Empire and then died, and then tried to wake up through this empire and then went away. And if you look at every single thing, it always goes back to Egypt. And then if you look at Egypt fighting the sea people, which is the Atlanteans, and why they actually had the power, that's when you start to like actually get the entire line of everything. Everything else is just made up. Like the whole, oh, white people are like this, like, you know, Jewish people are like this, Muslims are like this, Christians are like this. It all goes back to Egypt. And if you look at their religion, that is who is responsible for everything behind the scenes.
I think they're probably working with these gods or who knows what, right? So let's flip the script. Let's talk about some of these the Mpox stuff. Insider Bill Gates is developing a COVID Mpox HIV super virus to kill billions of humans. I'm like, YouTube's not gonna like this. So Bill Gates is working with Fauci to develop a new super virus that will combine RNA and SARS-CoV-2, Mpox, and HIV, which will be compatible of wiping out a vast majority of the population. Who knows? People's voices dances that line of definitely like misinformation and like fear bait and all that stuff, or whatever people want to call it. To me, right, it is weird. They're trying, like, they create Disease X, which if you read it on like Wikipedia is essentially just like it's just a blanketed term for whatever next virus could be created, manufactured, in my opinion, to be put out there or whatever, right? But the Mpox thing, I think we'll call it the medicine. When people were taking the medicine, you know, that it could be just to hide all the side effects, because I've seen people that I like know getting like cancer, all sorts of stuff, so having weird side effects and weird ailments, and it's not good.
No, it really isn't. Honestly, Bill Gates, that dude, how should I say this? Let's just say Zuckerberg doesn't own Facebook. Bill Gates doesn't own Microsoft. They're just puppet faces who, you know what I'm trying to say? And so what they will say is they will kind of give us clues as to what their thing is. I think every single disease hasn't been made. It's all in the vaccine that was initially taken from 2021 to 2020, well, actually till now. And so I think these are dormant, and I think that they can be activated through certain vibrations, and that they can cause many different things, because that's what is interesting about the nanolipids, because I've got a degree in molecular biology and biochemistry. So in order for a nanolipid to open up and release whatever message is inside of it, it needs a change from the vial that it's in. So it's either got to be a pH change, a temperature change, a vibrational change in frequency, or, you know, it has to go from one certain environment into another to know when to open up, because all of your cells have different pH levels.
And you think there's a possibility that you could awaken through certain vibrations, right? Like I just had Chris Mayhew on from Forbidden Knowledge News, and he's had like mushroom experiences listening to like whatever 38 hertz, and it's like it like woke his, like he talked to like entities and stuff, like the craziest stuff you can imagine, being able to use this. Now I've done a lot of mushrooms, I've told you that before, where I like now I want to do this. I'm like, it makes me intrigued, but it kind of relates back to vibrations can be used for certain things. But what do you think? We're gonna dance the lines, hopefully it stays up on YouTube. We'll try to not say the V word, maybe just call it the medicine, or something like that, the jabby dabby do. But what do you think about the towers that have gone up? Can't also say that, but the towers that mysteriously went up everywhere, like seems like overnight, people think that there's a connection to that, to the medicine, and that it's going to send out certain sort of frequency and then like awaken something in people's DNA.
That's kind of okay. So like the 5G towers going up immediately, and they suck. Like, have you noticed that, like, on 5G, your phone...
My SIM card is still 4G. I didn't get a new one.
Oh, okay, because 5G is absolutely horrendous. And it's also, I heard it's short-term range versus LTE is a lot long-term. So you need a lot more towers, which I find really, really suspicious. So
Yeah.
what are these towers and what can they actually do? I don't think anyone really knows. However, there are people who are way more knowledgeable in this stuff than I am. I'm not really good with the whole physics of the whole electronics and waves thing. Like my thing was molecular biology and biochemistry. But from what I understand in the most simple layman terms is that these vibrations or these waves that are emitted by 5G are very short and more frequent versus the LTE. So there could actually be implications on a cellular level from what is being emitted, because we know that EMF has changed a lot of different people's cells. Some people are more sensitive to it and they hear buzzing. They also get headaches and certain other things. And I would not kind of call these people crazy or kooks. They're just more sensitive to it than the rest of us who are used to it. You know what I mean?
No, I had a friend that's schizophrenic growing up. He actually is the one that showed me how to use the Ouija boards, and I was like way too young. And he claimed that like ghosts were choking him at night, all sorts of crazy shit. Not the fun choke, like a bad choke. And he supposedly, like, I don't know. I always thought that he was seeing stuff that I couldn't see. Or like was connected to something, had some sort of different, and there's a lot of people that claim that, but there's one of the dudes I've done shows with, Chanted Down. He said that supposedly it's the active denial system, and when turned up to 95 like gigahertz, it's a military grade weapon. Some have a lever you can pull it down, and he's like, not saying you should, but as on a post I posted, and like I've heard about that, and there's videos of the active denial system, and it's pretty wild actually.
That's insane. I got to go down that rabbit hole, but it's really fascinating that you say like with schizophrenia, it's what you think he sees more than us. I actually read a scientific journal where they put a schizophrenic person without medication in an MRI. And when he heard the voices, the actual part of the brain that is, like lights up to us when we actually hear auditory noises is the exact same place that lights up in a schizophrenic patient. Without any noise. So it's not in the imagination part, it's in the actual area for auditory schizophrenia. And they did the same thing for visual schizophrenia. So then a discussion started with, are schizophrenic people actually hearing and seeing things that maybe we're not, because they're more sensitive to a different frequency of, you know, either sound or visual frequency, or light waves, because we can only see, I think, what was it, 7 or 5% or 3% or something visually.
We see like nothing.
Exactly. And so I find that really fascinating. So when they do medicate somebody with schizophrenia, they pretty much just kind of shut that auditory or that visual aspect of things down. And so I find that really interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny. He's the one that showed me like that we used to bang Ouija boards on a piece of paper with a shot glass, and then eventually my grandma gave me one, and then I have 3 over there that I've collected. I haven't touched them in years. There's some that like, and I felt like I got obsessed with it, and I was like possessed by something. I think I may have been cursed, may have ruined my life as a teenager. God knows what. Have you ever seen the active denial system work?
I don't know. I haven't,
Okay,
honestly.
So here, check this out. Watch this shit. It's okay. Let me know if you hear it.
Okay.
Good start.
Marines and several other DoD representatives had quite the heated demonstration at Quantico, Virginia from the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate.
This is a military area. Move away from the perimeter. I say again, this is a military area. Move away from the perimeter.
Their new active denial system boasts a reach far beyond any other non-lethal system.
Well, it's a versatile system, and it has a range of non-lethal capability that we can't even come close to with any of our fielded systems today that are in our military forces.
About 7 football fields to give it some perspective.
It's only 2.
It can deter individuals on a military perimeter all the way up to a riotous crowd, all without permanent harm.
It only penetrates 1/64 of an inch of your skin, goes very shallow into where your nerve receptors are, and there's no permanent injury
like
caused by it.
Okay.
Very safe system. We've built in some safety margins and training for the operators.
They even let any of the guests volunteer to test out its effectiveness and safety, including the Assistant Commandant of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Most described it as feeling like a hot oven or grill being opened up.
It is something that, once again, probably the safest system that we've developed as far as the non-lethal capability.
From Washington, I'm Sergeant.
Dude,
Okay,
what?
Yeah, and imagine what they can use that for. So it's like, and I've talked about this on other shows, like how much do they have to oppress us where they know about this stuff and that they're like whatever, we're gonna be able to get away with this anyway. So they don't really, and that's why you have like you're not gonna vote your way out of this system that they have weapons like this.
That's insane. And now can you imagine other things that they have if they're showing us this? Because
Yes.
usually we get like stuff like that's 20 years old to them shown to us, you know what I mean? Because there was what was that thing in Halifax or Nova Scotia, or was it New Brunswick, where the military actually said that they were testing on people without them knowing it, putting systems in the woods and like just letting it go, and people are getting like brain disorders that doctors can't explain.
I didn't hear about that. That's crazy.
Oh,
It's
look it up.
acid.
It's like, because then you've got the Savannah or Havana syndrome, where politicians are like kind of going loopy and having headaches. That's been around for like ever. And it's called like the Havana syndrome. Look that up as well, because that's another technology where they can kind of like screw with your brain without you even knowing it.
That's what I'm saying. How do we know these people don't have and they're not controlling these politicians like what we think? And that's the scariest thing. I hope to God there's like benevolent forces out there that are helping us, guide us through this awakening or whatever this is. I hope to God. There's a lot of people that seem to think so. I don't necessarily know if that's true. I'm hoping this lady that's coming on will help me be like convinced that there's aliens helping us. Weird. Yeah, it's a health incidents, medical, headaches, visual insomnia. Canadian embassy staff in Havana. It was so weird.
Yeah.
You're in
exactly
Frankfurt, Germany. That's not surprising.
Yeah, right. Like, especially with all of like the stuff that the Shinazi have like, been digging into since World War II, and then kind of went into hiding.
That's where you think about like them essentially being controlled by the Vril. I eventually want to do an episode about that. Is like maybe they were like trying to do good things against the globalists and help their people out. Who knows, right? And there's a lot of people that try to point to that. I'm more concerned about communism, not going to lie, than fascism. I think they're both equally as bad to some regard, but I think that the communists won the war. It sure seems like that. They rushed to the aid of Stalin it pretty quickly, and Stalin was mass murdering people and starving them to death. And then there's like, Churchill was a war criminal that just got placed into power during the war. I think it probably was all orchestrated from behind the scenes, just like the Rothschilds were definitely banking on both. Like they spent money on both sides. The big guy, the guy with a little mustache, was being funded by the United States. So,
oh yeah, no, honestly, here's my thing with like the whole fascism, communism, all of that stuff. They're all exactly the same, leading us down the same road. They're just taking different groups of people who agree with that ideology so that they take us down to full on Marxism, which is complete tyranny, which is going back to that whole servants and lord kind of thing.
There's all these kids that are like, we're going to have a violent revolution, and all like little skinny kids that couldn't pick up 50 pounds. And I'm like, man, you won't be able to survive what they're going to do to you. You're a useful idiot. You're being used like everybody is. You're being pawns. They're playing like 4D chess while you're playing with Legos. You know?
Oh yeah, I had Legos, dude. I'm going to use that from now on.
But like supposedly there's like Gates is like a super virus to force lockdowns for the election, and that's why I like People's Voice. Like it is interesting because like they definitely do these hit piece articles like the mainstream media would do, but very conspiracy based. So it's kind of fun to kind of talk about. I want to bring this up because there's some shady shit about Nancy Pelosi, but let's just play this clip, and then I'm going to read this article about how supposedly she murdered a child in horrific adrenochrome ritual. So,
what? I have not heard this one yet.
So let's see.
They didn't know what they were talking about. We know we're different from the presidential. We're very discreet, reptilian, cold-blooded. These are the races we have to win. Others are winning the whole country.
She literally admitted it.
Dude, what?
She literally admitted she's a reptilian. So
it's almost like her programming kind of went away. And did you see the face of the other chick while she said it?
Yeah, I know. We'll play it again for people to see it because it is.
That was insane.
They didn't know what they were talking about. We know we're different from the presidential. We're very discreet, reptilian, cold-blooded. These are the races we have to win. Others are.
As soon as she said reptilian, that chick licked her lips.
Dude, that is insane. I have to find that. You got to send me that clip. That is
so it was all over the internet. I was like, man, it's like when Obama's like, we have the reptilian core of our brain.
That's insane. But did you see how she kind of like almost snapped out of like the hypnosis when the guy was talking in the back, almost like a certain vibration, kind of like, and then I think she forgot what she was going to say, like saying we're different from the president. We're more discreet. We're reptilian. Dude.
I think,
Come on, Spirit Gum. Keep Obama's human mask on over his lizard face. #lizard truth. Surely you can do this.
It's crazy.
That's awesome.
It's crazy, man. Like, I think these people are.
There's an attack on the species by a guild of psychopaths, and they must be defeated.
Honestly, Alex Jones is sounding more and more sane every single day as like the whole thing plays out in the open.
It's so crazy. And like, I've kind of told you my shampoo experience. I saw something that doesn't exist in our like physical reality, and it took hold of me. I had sleep paralysis. It felt like something was ripping my soul out of my body. I felt this, and I'll never forget it. And it's like vivid memory stuck in my head of this. One of the scariest experiences that I've ever had. And I fucking did stupid shit, went to jail, and that wasn't fun. And went through some horrible shit in my life, but that scared the living shit out of me. And it proved to me, that's why I'm like, I don't care what other people think. You can believe whatever you like. You can think I'm crazy. But I was stone sober, and I saw these shadow people. I saw it. Like, and I stood and walked towards my door and saw something look down at me that was like, 7-8 feet tall, shadow creature. It looked down at me. It looked at me. And it was just this, like, I could see it clear as day. So I've already proven to myself through that experience, and I was super low vibration. So these things can, I think, hack in and tap in, and people call them reptilians. I do think that there is a weird thing throughout our history with snake worship and all that stuff. But I've already seen enough to prove to myself that there is definitely darker, lower vibration entities that do feed off of us.
Oh, 100%. Like if you look at everything, even that Tesla said, that we're all about energy frequency. You know what I mean? If you look at Monsters Inc., they feed off of fear. If you look at one of the things that Tesla actually made, and it's supposed to harness energy, it's the exact same thing that CERN is making. And they've got like the goddess Shiva, which actually takes the dust after like the earth has been born and like, puts like the dust and like the ashes of the dead over her to give rebirth to a new world. Like,
so
you know what I mean?
And then you have like all these like these Disney movies, they have whatever A31 or whatever that symbol that shows up, and that's supposed to be the compound of adrenochrome.
Really?
Oh yeah, and they put it everywhere on license plates and like Toy Story. So let me read this fact-checked article. Who knows? The political elite in Washington practice an occult ritual that involves sacrifice of children and the consumption of their blood. This is only conspiracy theories and speculation, everybody watching on YouTube. According to the young whistleblower who spent working like on Capitol Hill, according to the whistleblower, these depraved rituals are an open secret in DC and form a part of sickening initiation ritual for newcomers to the Hill, and then mark for a career, including status, power, and wealth. And there's celebrities that have talked about these rituals that claim this is the accurate one. YouTuber supposedly didn't take part of it, but he watched his buddy. He looked through a window and saw his buddy doing this ritual that he's like, it's the thing about them, the most depraved and sick thing. That's what they were doing to initiate him into this Hollywood realm of Hollywood. Although not everyone succeeds in passing the initiation trial, everyone understands the dire consequences of speaking out. So earlier this week, 84-year-old Nancy Pelosi informed the world that she is a cold and calculated reptilian. Perhaps it's time we should start taking Pelosi at her word. After all, isn't the first time she's boasted that she is a reptilian on Prime TV. I didn't know she's done it more than once. According to a DC whistleblower who worked as an intern during one of Pelosi's terms as Speaker of House, Pelosi is not exaggerating when she describes herself in such terms. According to the whistleblower, Pelosi and other leaders in DC are monsters hiding in plain sight who practice occult religion that involves the sacrifice of children, like Tabal or who knows what. And the whistleblower reveals that child sacrifice in DC is an open secret, yet terrifying consequences for anybody that speaks out. According to Laura Logan, the globalist elite dying on blood of children, and she is pointing the finger of blame directly at the Biden administration and Child Protective Services for participating in the most heinous crimes. So she's claiming that she's an investigative journalist with a career in the mainstream media, granted her access to the corridors of the powerful elite during her time at CBC's 60 Minutes, where she rose to a position of chief foreign affairs correspondent. Logan covered some of the most important stories of her time, including the war on terror, quotations, in Afghanistan, and the events of Benghazi and the Arab Spring. In other words, she was a pro and she knew her shit. And according to this, woke mob, shortly after interviewing, discussing her, she was canceled by the media for speaking out. And she's saying to those who are calling Laura to be canceled, perhaps you should do some research into the Durux affair in Europe. The details of this disturbing episode will fill you with all you need to know about the global elite. It isn't a conspiracy. Durtrux, Dutrous. I can pronounce foreign shit. So what happened to the kids in Haiti? There's a lot of the Moral Technique, a famous rapper, the underground rapper, talks about this. The media didn't always shut down discussion about drinking blood of children. In the 1800s, it was permissible. The Mackay Mercury and South Kennedy Advertiser reported that in Cincinnati, it's blood drinkers, just like New York City. The journalist who sampled taste of blood himself wrote that it tastes like the richest cream, warm with tart sweetness and the strength of pure wine.
Dude, what?
Yeah, isn't that scary? So it was a drought, simply delicious, sweeter than any concoction of the chemist, the Confederate, and the winemaker. It's so weird. And this brings the article. This is like an actual newspaper, so I can supposedly, who knows? This is so funny that, where is it? Yeah. So this is supposedly the newspaper that they're getting it from, and you in the outlines where they're supposed to be saying this, and we really to believe that people in the 1800s in America were drinking children's blood. The British royal family has been consuming human flesh for centuries, and the Roman empires were indulging in the occasion of drought of human blood, draft of human blood, and the global elites maybe take part in this. Very weird, and considering in this child eater. Oh yeah, this is in. You've seen this before. That's in Switzerland, where the headquarters for Davos, for the World Economic Forum. It's literally a statue.
Yep, and CERN, which is interesting.
So, and it's weird. What do you what do you think about what's the connection to Switzerland? Because that's supposed to be where the Nazis held their gold and stuff. That they're always neutral, so they could keep their gold there. What do you think is the importance of Switzerland?
Honestly, I have no idea, like, the importance when it comes to like the elites and like any sort of portal or in that sense of the way. But when it comes to the global elites, that's where how should I say this? Most of these global elites ran to when they were kicked out of everywhere, and that's why all the banks are there. And so Switzerland has been neutral in both world wars. They hold all the banks, they hold all the gold, and they hold all of the riches of Europe that has been taken through both world wars, every war, in that sense of the way. And I find that really, really weird. You know what I mean? Because like I lived in Switzerland for 5 years in a refugee camp, right? So like I didn't get the elite package. I got the refugee package of Switzerland. So like definitely completely opposite.
Did you get to
of
walk
the
around and see it?
What?
Did you get to walk around and see some of the countryside, like just like?
Oh yeah, like we were allowed to like leave the refugee camp, and I lived there for 5 years. Like I went to school there and everything, and like it's a very interesting place because they have all the citizens in line. very harshly. Everything that the NWO is doing, like the UN, the Switzerland has been doing for like years ahead of time. Like with the whole like don't drive, like, you know, bike everywhere. But Switzerland is so small that people don't understand. You can't have what you have in like Europe. You can't have that in Canada. Like if you look at all of Europe, it could probably fit into like BC. You know what I mean?
I know.
Like people don't understand just how big North America is, and you want us to like bike places like in -40. Are you high? Like
I know, and they're crazy. I'll just run off to the woods, and then you got the Canadian Shield, which is less cold. But like, if you knew how to survive in those temperatures, you'd be probably pretty good. You'd be like, you know, Ted Kaczynski out there. You know, and we're gonna get into him at some point, but like that guy was interesting too because he seems to know shit. And so went to Harvard, and then supposedly was part of the MK Ultra, which is
really.
Oh yeah, Ted Kaczynski, 100%. He was in Harvard, and there is a lot of theories that he was in on it. It's so hot, man.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. Like it is 35 degrees is like I'm dying here. Like you don't even know.
So let's break down some of the Olympic stuff. This is what I kind of wanted to get to, and I get it. Like we both have not paid attention to it. I didn't watch any of it. But there is symbolism within the Olympics, and and people are like, you know, don't pay attention to it. I think you should kind of analyze and try to understand why they're doing these things and why they're putting it out there. There's some really weird stuff that happened this year. You got Papa Smurf, so weird. It's so weird. And we'll get into that one. But did you know that in the Olympics in 1984, there was like a mock alien invasion?
Really? Okay, where was that held?
Let me have to look. I can't remember. It's some Spanish place because I could tell by their accents. Olympics 1984.
The summer one, right?
Yeah, summer one. Where was it held? It says Los Angeles. Maybe it was. I think it was it was Los Angeles. But then it's weird because I looked for this video everywhere, and all I found was I don't know, maybe I think Spanish. I don't know what the guy's accent is. Sounds Spanish to me, but everything can sound Spanish to me. So
you gotta read that comment, dude. That was hilarious. Daisy made the best comment ever.
The only good thing about the Olympics this year was the French hauling wiener to. What was that about?
Dude, he lost the gold because his wiener was so big it got in the way and like hit the bull. And it was the funniest thing ever. I saw the memes all over.
Don't you tuck that shit in?
Oh my god, dude, that was funny.
You would want to tuck it in a little bit, you know? You were wearing that type of spandex.
Oh my gosh.
I'm surprised anyone had a wiener at the Olympics, considering some of the stuff they're. I guess, or you think everyone has a wiener?
That's true. That's true.
It's like all the boxing, like let's have two men fight each other, and they're claiming, oh well, he had XY chromosomes, but was a female, and I'm like, oh man, that's really pushing it.
That's so true. So I'm sorry, I just read Daisy's comment again, and that was funny. Oh, that's awesome.
So pretty crazy. So watch this. You can unmute your mic if you want during this, if you want to comment. It's about 3 minutes, but very weird. I remember like when I was like a teenager, I was really looking into the Olympic symbolism because I was like down that David Icke road, and it's just, check this out. Very weird.
Ett föremål som liknar ett flygande tefat, eller vad ska man säga? Som med olika färger. Och så lite rymdmusik till. Det är som en hälsning från en fjärran planet där olympiska spel förmodligen ännu inte är uppfunna.
I couldn't find this in English. I looked everywhere. I could only find this in English.
Det sprakar och gnistrar. av regnbågens alla färger ur detta föremål där uppe.
Och vi här nere möter vi med våra små blå ficklamsor. Som tillsammans ändå är ganska starka som ni ser.
Det är ett ljusskott som sprakar.
Titta här.
Där uppe på podiet står liksom en varelse från en främmande
Now there's an
planet.
alien. All the other listeners. Aliens to the point.
Vi har kommit en lång väg. Därför jag tyckte om det jag har sett.
By a belief in the limitless possibilities of human achievement. For almost 100 years you have celebrated the best that humanity has to offer. You call it the Olympic Games. And for that, and for the cities which have kept the Olympic ideal alive, I salute you!
What do you think about that?
Dude, Project Bluebeam.
I know.
Like they just
Weird.
literally tested Project Bluebeam out like at the Olympics, and then it's really funny because they showed the moon, and I've gone down a bunch of those rabbit holes about like the aliens on the moon actually monitoring us.
Yeah, there's according to David Icke, there's like theories how like there is Saturn worship, so that people point back to what like the Khazarian people are worshiping is that black cube. That's where they all pray to in Mecca and stuff like that. Is this weird black cube? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that because like I haven't researched that aspect of it. But you have what's that guy's name? He is fat with glasses. Jordan Maxwell. He talks about that stuff, about the black cube and the worship for Saturn, and it's just interesting because then it's supposed to be like the moon. Like, I think it's what David Icke said. The moon was like amplifying. It was like essentially like a speaker, so to speak, just like a frequencies, and they could observe Earth from Saturn, something crazy like that. But there's definitely like weird things on the dark side of the moon that I've heard from like numerous people have claimed it to be true.
That's interesting because all the Abrahamic images have like the black cube. Because if you look at like Judaism, they have like the black cube that they tie, right? Like the not cube, but it's like a box that they tie for like religious reasons. Then in the Muslim religions, it's the black cube under the veil that everybody touches. And then what happens is if you open up a cube, you get the cross. So if you open up a box, a perfect box, if you open it up, you get the cross.
And that's why, and people claim that like the Star of David, nothing to do with it, never been mentioned in the Bible. People think he's the Star of Remphan, which goes back to Solomon. I think that's probably more likely. But then if you look at it, it can look like a cube, and people think it's Saturn worship and all this stuff, which I'd like to do an episode on, and just to open my, just because I'll research stuff and do shows about it, just if I find it interesting. But it is weird. And it's crazy. That was in 1984. So,
that's insane, dude. That's really weird. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine now what laser things that they would have, like to actually do a laser show like that?
It would look, I think they have technology where it will look like there's concerts where it looks like almost like real.
Yeah. Like if you look at all the like Tomorrowland, I think, or whatever, like the rave, not rave, I don't know, whatever, Tomorrowland, like all of this stuff that they have now, like that's only for like concerts. Now imagine the military grade stuff.
That's why I'm like, what is our hope to get out of this? It's almost like we need aliens. I don't know, because like if they have all these things to oppress us and keep us down under their boot, like what chance do we have against any of this stuff? Collectively, maybe, but nobody is getting on board with that.
Well, there's so much mess around there with like propaganda and then other things that have been like mixed into whatever. But eventually, like the truth does come out. So I keep hoping that because the elites are so stupid, right? Like we as a humanity are way dumber. Like when you really think about it, like if they can control us on a mass scale level, that means for every probably one person, there's 5,000 NPCs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trying even harder to control us and control our minds. And they've been able to, but they're so stupid that you can actually like see right through it, that they have to muddy the waters with more propaganda. But at the end of the day, I think in every book, like if you see it, we win and they ask for mercy. You know what I mean?
Hope to God that's true. And people like shit on this guy, but I've read all of his books and I like him. Is David Wilcock. He's an interesting character. You know who he is? He looks like
wait, he sounds familiar though.
Here, see if I can bring up an image in this guy's. Here, where is he? David. He looks like the goofiest guy, but I've read all of his books and they're interesting. They're a little more positive. Have you ever seen this guy?
Oh, dude, yeah, I've seen him. Yeah, okay. I'm
Jeez,
so
some of
bad
these
with
pictures
names.
look
I'm like
horrible.
horrible with names.
Yeah, and then if you look up like he looks just like Edgar Casey. It's crazy.
What?
So look at a picture of Edgar Casey and then look at him.
Oh shit, he actually does.
So someone told him this and he like looked into it. Is he thinks he's the reincarnation of Edgar Casey. And a lot of people he even thinks it himself. He talks about it in his books, but he was only pointed this out by somebody else and then started looking into it. But it is kind of weird. Like look how similar they do look.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, and he is also someone that is like, you know, I've read his books. They're interesting. He talks a lot about the hero's journey, about like a reality and how it has to go to this point and then go down and then go back up kind of thing of like how to get to the point where we can succeed through all this stuff. But a lot of people do shit on him and think that he's like, just like making up shit, which I don't know.
Honestly, we could all be just making up shit, and this could all just be a mental experiment where it's virtual reality.
Yeah.
And we're all discussing it at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Just crazy. And then so let's bring it before we ended on the 2024 Olympics. This is crazy. I remember at the time I was like super into David Icke. I actually thought the world was going to end in 2012. I was young, okay, and I was super into this stuff and looking into it. I was whatever, like 20, 21 years old. And my co-host worked with me and can definitely vouch for this stuff. He said I would be in his ear about the reptilians. I was watching like all of David Icke's talks, like, 7 hours long, super into this stuff. And then there's this whole, and this is like, I never dove down this rabbit hole, but I heard about the Zionism stuff. And now the 2012 Olympic symbol looked like it said Zion. And they had these weird characters with the Illuminati eye. Let's see if I can bring that up. Because it was weird. I can't remember what they were called, but there's these weird little creatures, and they had like Olympics. I don't know what they would be called, mascots or some shit, but it was weird. And have you seen anything about the 2012 Olympics? Not really.
The 2012. Where was that again?
London. Of course, the epicenter.
No, I don't think I have.
People are claiming this looks like Zion. Once you like real, like, so it's kind of weird. Whoops.
Oh, hello.
I removed myself. Whoops. I removed you. I
was like, where'd you go?
Let's see. Were those mascots? I don't know what mascots. So look at these. Yeah, look at these creatures with the one eye. And then by the rainbow, 2012.
What?
Really weird, eh?
Dude,
So
that's insane.
I got the one eye, so the eye of Horus or whatever they want to, something. And then you have all these, you see all these triangles.
Oh yeah, pyramids. Yeah, this goes exactly back to what I said. Egypt is the epicenter of everything that we're seeing today, and they're just using other people to mask for their evil doing so that we keep fighting amongst each other. I'm telling you, dude.
Crazy. So this is about 5 minutes, so everybody strap in. Interesting. This is the opening ceremony. Very weird. Sponsored by, I'm pretty sure it was the NIH and the WHO. So check this out. I'll unmute myself because I'm going to read off some of the stuff. They're going to bring up Alan Watts quotes and stuff. So if you can chime in if you want, or we'll just discuss it at the end. But everyone pay attention to this. All the other listeners, you can look up the opening ceremony for the 2012 Olympics. It is pretty wild. Oh yeah, I know. Is Taylor Swift the reincarnation of Xena Shrek? Yeah, Anton LaVey's daughter. Who knows? They do look very similar, or they're from the same clone DNA. But everybody check this out. Pretty wild. Predictive programming is the power of suggestion using the media of fiction to create a desired outcome. Alan Watts. Predictive programming is subtle form of psychological conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with a planned societal changes to become implemented by our leaders if and when these changes, goddammit, using symbolism essentially to get people used to what could come. And check this out. All the other listeners, if you've never seen this, is pretty wild. There's all these people waving to all these people that are going into hospital beds, like they're leaving, they're going into the hospital. There's people on a hill waving to all these, and then you see, some of the COVID hospitals, all these people dancing, all these nurses dancing. Does that not look familiar? Pretty weird. More doctors dancing around hospital beds. You're all having fun during the most deadliest epidemic. NIH, there you go. They're spelling it out. NIH during the COVID-19 world. All over billboards with hearts around it. Pretty strange. Now, a lot of the doctors, there's so much footage of them just doing nothing because the hospitals were empty because people were scared to go to the hospitals. The next part of the ceremony becomes disturbing for the part of the footage considered that the ghouls are COVID-19. Very weird. I'll be posting this on YouTube and Rumble probably just for all the fun. Following footage notes the Chinese lady featured in the foreground of the shot because it came from Wuhan, China, supposedly. And then you have that cage, just a coincidence. That cage that looks like it's from Chickadee Bang Bang with the child capture. That film is very occult-like anyway. See all the pyramids in the background and the lighting, pretty weird. Some of the great villains from British literature, it's claiming. All these children scared.
That look like Prince Charles.
They're saying it looks like Boris Johnson.
Oh crap, yeah, I guess it does, eh?
So weird. Symbolism is their downfall, according to some people. It is very strange. The next depiction shows a child that's suspended in a hospital bed before being met by a Grim Reaper. And then you have Voldemort appear. I was telling my co-hosts about this. They don't even remember any of this shit. And I was like, man, I remember this coming out at the time and freaking out about it. And I was young, early 20s, being like, holy shit. I had no idea what would come in the future. Is this depicting of sacrifice? The scary, and he's having a wand, and they're claiming probably it's Voldemort. And the ghouls are depicting the virus. Don't forget, airborne. That's very weird. They're all in the air. People can't deny that this is definitely some occult ritual and predictive programming to get us used to maybe the disease that was coming. See, does it look like a syringe? A little bit. Looks like a wand. Very strange. All the dancing nurses again. Weird. Just keep clapping. So what do you think? Just a coincidence?
No. And there were some sort of hand signals that they were doing, but I don't know sign language, and I'm really curious to watch the whole thing, and also what the what they were thinking when they what were they thinking when they made that? You know what I mean? Because what's interesting is COVID, according to like conspiracy theories, according to what I read, was actually supposed to be released in 2012, not 2020.
Weird. And
So that's another weird coincidence.
Ned the mailman. Guy was trying to cast a spell on me, like a wizard or something.
Are you sure about that?
I don't know. Maybe he was just waving.
That's hilarious.
He's so dumb. Good thing we snapped the queen's wand at her funeral. Fuck that reptilian.
Lol.
Yeah, it's crazy. You've never seen that before?
No, I've never seen that before, because like I never watched the Olympics. Like, as I said, I only watched like the hockey portion and for the Winter Olympics. But now I'm actually curious to see almost every single country's summer and winter Olympics, just to see if there's a pattern and if maybe there's something that we need to look into more closely.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
People are like, don't pay attention to it. Like, who cares? You're giving it power and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, to some extent, but also you should be paying attention to what they're leaking out and observing it and trying to understand it. So then people like say, like David Icke is one person that pointed this out. I was scrolling through his website a lot at that time. And it's before I was like, they were trying to take it down and stuff. And I remember like at work having a smoke, and I'd look at his site, and that I saw that 2012 symbolism and Olympic stuff. So, and it wasn't because I was watching it. I was just paying attention to some of what people were saying in the conspiracy world. And he brought up all this stuff. Like it's kind of frightening, some of the imagery that they had. It is weird. Like this death character, and I don't know. People think it's a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, me neither. After so many coincidences, you kind of got to ask yourself, are they really, or are they predictive programming, or are they even telling us what they will do in the future? You know what I mean?
And look what's happening. And now what is the newest Olympics about, right? Like all this weird symbolism that they had. And golden calf. So like the golden calf was essentially, I'm pretty sure it was like when Moses went up to Mount Sinai or Sion or whatever, that the golden calf, according to Torah and the Quran, the golden calf was a cult image made by the Israelites when Moses went up to Mount Sinai, and in Hebrew incidents of the sin of the calf. So they worshipped a golden calf when Moses was gone.
Yes.
So that's weird. And then you have the Lucifer character.
Yeah, this is really weird, and it's really odd because like whatever they're showing us right now will not happen right now, but it will happen here in the future. But how far into the future? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's like so. According to this Papa Smurf fuck, so weird. I'm a big fan of Kill Tony, and the one guy dressed up like him for one of the shows.
No way.
If you keep up with it, it's a fun show because it gives me like an outlet of like just hang out, have a drink or two, enjoy it because it's pure comedy. And what's his name? The Great Red Machine or whatever they call him. He dressed up like him. It was very funny. So according to this, you see that he's like on a dinner plate, right? And then you have all these trannies and stuff clearly trying to push the LGBT agenda, which I think is a Marxist communist agenda, in my opinion. So they might be correct that this is supposed to be a connection to Dionysus. There is people, one guy I wanted on the show eventually, Christian, I can't remember his last name, and he claims that this is actually nothing more than a Mithra. This is a Mithra cult. According to him, people think it's Satanism, but then he was like, no, that your Satanism is like this shit, where you're like the Satanic Bible, where it's just like, just be free and do what you want. Don't care about the consequences. Essentially, that's what I took from Satanism and Anton LaVey's. But I think there's different sections of it. Okay, I think there's the Luciferianism stuff, but there is an ancient Mithra cult and Mithraism, and people think that it might be something to do with that, and that this whole thing was Dionysus was one of the sons of Zeus, and he was torn apart by the Titans as a baby and eaten. So, and he's supposed to represent Dionysus, who is he's on a platter. They open the lid of the platter.
Interesting.
Is that weird?
Yeah, because like the blue could also mean a body that has been, dead for a while, like without any circulation through it, instead of like the whole Smurf thing as well.
And then the idea of like using like people already had enough of this gay agenda. Like, it's a very small portion of the population now. Obviously, like they're trying to influence kids in this way. I do believe that a lot of the stuff just comes from Marxism and communism. Maybe back to the Sabbatean Frankist cult of Jacob Frank. But then obviously the Christians are getting mad because it looks like the depiction of the Last Supper. Everyone is kind of where they should be, but then there's conspiracies about that whole painting in general, and I didn't know this, but there was a headless angel, and whatever this thing is, like
what?
Yeah, look at this weird creature thing, and this is at the closing ceremony. A lot of people didn't pay attention to it, and there was this weird headless angel occult practice. Like, this is definitely like a ritual. Like, there's no other way around it. It's a headless angel, so like.
Maybe the Olympics, maybe all of the Olympics are actually just rituals, like summer rituals and then winter rituals, and they overlap each other with every 2 years.
Summer solstice and the winter solstice.
Yeah, but like every 2 years, which is also a really weird pattern that needs to be looked into.
Like, isn't that weird? What do you think? What is your thoughts about this with the strangeness, at least of what you've heard and even what we're showing?
Honestly, I have ignored all of it, but now I'm going to go down a serious rabbit hole because, like, you got the Marie Antoinette thing. You've got the mocking of Jesus, but there seems to be a deeper layer, almost satanic ritual or some sort of ritual in the sense of the way. I'm going to have to really look into this.
It's weird, man. And like the Mithra cult that what's his name is bringing up was like interesting. That's all sorts of fucked up. It definitely is. There's some weird stuff going on. I just wanted to, because I think like people are like don't pay attention to it, but I like kind of analyzing stuff and trying to understand why this stuff has happened and why they're doing this. I'll never watch it. I couldn't give a fuck about sports. My biggest guff with people, I'm sounding like an 80-year-old guy guff. Like the idea of like, oh, you will like punch a guy for liking Boston, or you will ride over the Vancouver games. I've said this many times. But when your taxes consistently get raised and then funneled into a money laundering operation in Ukraine, or God knows what else is being used for to fund wars and to kill children and all sorts of stuff. You don't even do anything. You don't lift a finger. You don't care. As long as you're drunk on the couch, eating your Cheetos, watching your hockey game. And that's the problem I have with people is like the testosterone that I see out of men, especially when they watch hockey or any sports game, but you won't have that same sort of ambition and drive when it comes to protecting your children against like the LGBT agenda or the government and implementing the stuff that they're doing.
Oh, the sports bros are the worst. They're the ones where you give them bread and circuses and they will literally give away their family and their life. You know what I mean? Sports bros are some of the worst people. Like when they come onto my like X page or whatever, and they try and teach me about like, the government and whatever. I'm like, bro, you're an NPC. You are like the typical NPC matrix.
Ew.
Like, you know what I mean? You're not even a real person. Please don't talk to me about politics. Like go watch your little sports, eat your little Cheetos, and then pretend like you could actually do what these sports guys do. You know what I mean?
No, and that's what they're doing. You're watching a 20-year-old that's getting paid millions of dollars to just like hit a ball around.
Exactly. Yeah. And they get so into it too. Like it's insane.
I've never like I played sports, I played football and I liked basketball, and being able to like playing sports is good for your health and stuff like that. Right. And like, that's like, you like to smoke. I like having a couple of like drinks. I've always kept it at bay. Right. But I'm like trying to work out right now. I want to get as healthy as humanly possible that I can, especially after probably abusing my body throughout the years of my teenage and early 20s. But like you kind of got to stay consistent, but you also sometimes need to relax and have an outlet too.
Honestly, I say it's all about balance. Like a lot of people will push themselves to the point where they want to live an extra, like, I don't know, 5-10 years in the future without even any guarantee, not enjoying their life or any of that sense of the way. And then if you actually look at all the blue zones where people live the longest, they drink so much wine, it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? So is it really alcohol? Is it really cigarettes? Or is it all the stress and the chemicals that they're pumping into us and actually making us feel like shit about this, the way we live?
I have a cousin who like it's like smoked forever, and he was like, stress is caused, or cancer is caused by stress.
It is 100%, dude. Totally.
But then they're like, well, if I smoke and it relieves my stress, then maybe, you know. And they claim that like I don't know, they could like that people are like, I don't know, I have this problem where I'm like, I think they're like, you know, it's all hate and stuff. I think you should hate evil though. Like there is a part of me that thinks you should hate evil. So this idea of like everything's, you can't hate anybody, you can't hate pedophiles or Satanists or fucking, you know.
Yeah, you can.
So
if it deserves hate, you can hate it. You know what I mean?
And out of hate brews revolutions, even though most of them were probably co-opted by people. Like even the French Revolution, everyone brings it back to that, but that was co-opted by certain people in some regard, because then it instilled certain people in the power.
Exactly. Honestly, the whole thing is just a matrix.
We're living in crazy times. Shout out where everyone can find you. I love having you on the show. Definitely in like next couple months or whatever, I'll have you back on because the world's going to stay consistently crazy. I do really enjoy having you as a you know, kind of like a part-time like host, little guest, because we balance each other out in a good way of like what we're both interested in, but then like I think we're both on the same page of questioning everything.
Oh, absolutely. Like the one thing that I like is like we just bounce off. Like we start off on one end and then it just kind of goes off the rails, comes back down to the rails, and then like goes like in a straight path and then just kind of like goes everywhere. And I absolutely love that because that's exactly how my mind works. So
mine too. And that's why I like the fact that it's a good balance, because even some of the darker aspects of things, you bring a good balance to it of like being like, yeah, it's like, it is a divide and conquer tactic. I 100% agree. But like I said, it's hard not to be mad at some of the stuff that's going on.
Honestly, I totally feel it because I get the same way, you know what I mean? And then I kind of like have to logically kind of talk myself out of it in the sense of the way, just so that I don't stay angry, because anger consumes you. But where people can find me, just the usual, the Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok, which is all Truthseeker 01011. There's a bunch of like fake ones floating around, but the one with the most followers is me on each platform, and I don't have any backup accounts.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what the hell is going on. It's so funny. Like on Rumble, I noticed that like I did a post essentially against how there's no such thing as a trans kid, and I even know that's on some Rumble. There's some weird freak guy that took this video that's like 2 years old. I had no idea he did this, and then he was like responding to my video, and it's some old man that is trans. Like there's some guys like in his 60s. Because on Rumble, I looked up Reptilian, and this guy was like, essentially combating what my video said, and he looks scary looking. So I'm like,
dude,
videos and all sorts of shit. I'm like, whatever.
That's crazy.
So yeah, you're more than willing to peace out if you want. I'm just gonna play one of my songs to end it on. I appreciate everybody that watches and listens after or during the live. Make sure to like, subscribe, support us on Patreon. There's more and more people coming over to Patreon. There's a bunch of content, like me and my buddy Billy, we're covering Richard Ramirez. We're doing 2 parts because I realized it's way too long, because I love diving into serial killers. Fascinates me. True crime does fascinate me. And then the one time it was pouring at his, lives in a trailer, is pouring. He just buys his own trailer so he could live on his dad's property. And then we just like went off on a rant episode, and you can throw that on Patreon. So there's a lot of fun content on there already. And you can, everyone subscribe on Instagram is where we're most active, trying to be active on X. I don't understand X really, because I don't argue with people and comment on everything. I just try to post things to try to intrigue people, but it's not as like in TikTok and Instagram. I had all my big TikTok accounts taken down, trying to restart again.
I know, dude, how that goes. Yeah.
I had 3 accounts taken out, all of like thousands upon thousands of people. And I got 1 account in a week to 1,000 people. They took it down. I'm like, is this about getting the content out there to be like, I know there's people out there that would love this show. And we're reaching thousands of people as it is, but I feel like there's a threshold that we have to break because we're being shadow banned. 100%.
Oh yeah. Well, it was honestly great to see you. I got to take the puppy out for a walk. He keeps pulling on my arm. And if you guys want to see him, it's the little fella. Yeah, he's
kind of. I guess you wouldn't really
honestly know. No idea. All I know is he's an absolute feral little like dude who just bites everything right now, including my ankles, and then just terrorizes the cats and the dogs. But the dogs love him. So
how many cats do you have?
2.
Wow, man, we have 1 cat, 1 dog, and that's
I know.
He's very cute.
Yeah, he's honestly adorable, but he'll just bite on everything, including my hair and the microphone. So it was great. Honestly, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you again.
Yeah, you can go. Everybody, check out my music. And this is Not So Perfect.
This mattered as much as being able to knock down 700 incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles in a minute and a half. You can bet your boots it would be on your plate by breakfast time. That we are not organizing ourselves to save ourselves. We are organizing ourselves to deny our dilemma and to continue the fiction of business as
I consume a bunch of mushrooms, smoke a little weed, lose touch when I touch you, hold you in my dreams. I noose hugs too close to the throne as I breathe. Fuck you when the drugs do nosebleeds. As you crush ease and trust coke fiends. As you sing Jolene in old jeans to a bartender, Milwaukee, heart dismembered on a dark December. Put it in a box, walking through the blocks of the lonely streets. Hold it till it beats, it goes beneath the sheets. The earth frozen beneath my feet. Don't speak the code of the streets that they don't teach. Boldly go where they can't mold me. Try to indoctrinate with lies is how they propagate in the eyes of the God that they hate. Infiltrate the minds of the child who lost their faith to this hostile race. I stay lost in space. We're all rotting away like a decaying corpse. Humans used as a labor force. I choose to raise my voice and make some noise. Whether it gives me fame or not, together we faced pain and fought through the days we got. Save me a spot in whatever heaven is. But I don't trust God because the priests are molesting kids. Fuck off to the police that protect the rich. We should have strung up the elites. Why do we let them live? After killing kids with poisonous injections, millions sick with man-made infections, selling hand grenades and weapons to pay for protection, money laundering in Ukraine connections to United States investments. I lie awake with questions. I'll find a way to the ascension. I'll guide you through the maze of dimensions. They find what I say too offensive for the brainwashed youth. The difference is what I say is truth. They find what I say too offensive for the brainwashed youth. The difference is what I say is truth. The reptilian, Tomcat. The reptilian. Got more music coming. 2023.